Percussion. In the past, some authors recommended the use of percussion for the determination of cardiac position, levocardia versus dextrocardia, and its relation to abdominal viscera, situs solitus or inversus, based on gastric tympanic sounds. Today, these can be easily determined with chest radiography and echocardiography. Thus, cardiac percussion is not necessary in current practice. Now, palpation. Palpation is perhaps the most underemphasized part of the cardiovascular examination, both in medical education and bedside assessment. Proper technique includes palpation of the left and right ventricles as well as palpation of the cardiac base, great vessels. Via simple palpation, assessments of ventricular size, cardiac valve function, diastolic function, when third or fourth heart sounds are palpable, and pulmonary hypertension can be suspected. Masters of physical examination advocate that auscultation merely serves to confirm inspection and palpation findings. Palpation of the great vessels is part of a comprehensive cardiovascular physical examination and should be performed over the second right intercostal space aortic area and left intercostal space pulmonic area, best felt in the sitting position. A detectable pulsation represents palpable and therefore increased aortic or pulmonic components of the second heart sound. A palpable A2 component is rare. A palpable P2, however, is a critical finding because it suggests severe pulmonary hypertension, which can either be due to etiologies associated with increased pulmonary vascular resistance or left-sided diseases. Attention should be turned to the presence of thrills, palpable murmurs, which have a marked increase in the degree of turbulence. Thrills can be present at the apex, left lower sternal border, cardiac base, suprasternal notch or neck, and the posterior chest. When present, the location, timing, and radiation of a thrill should be described. Diastolic thrills are very rare. In current practice, the most common source of a thrill is a ventricular septal defect, which manifests as a systolic thrill at the left lower sternal border. It should be emphasized that the presence of a thrill is not diagnostic of a specific cardiac lesion, and the diagnosis should be made based on the constellation of findings observed on examination. Cardiac palpation should proceed with evaluation of the apical impulse. We recommend the term apical impulse instead point of maximal impulse because patients with significantly enlarged right ventricles might have parasternal leads that are more prominent than the left ventricular apical impulse. The apical impulse might be visible, facilitating its localization. Therefore, inspection should precede palpation. In addition, some of other palpable abnormalities may also be visible. Example, a rapid filling wave that corresponds to a third heart sound. Palpation and auscultation must be performed directly over the skin. Thus, patient should always be offered an examination gown and a sheet used to preserve patient's privacy. Examination of the patient in his or her clothes compromises the quality of the examination and is discouraged. With the patient in the supine position, if not visible, the examiner should look for the apical impulse using the entire right hand, starting at the inframammary area. In patients with large breasts, the examiner's left hand should be used to mobilize the breast to locate the apex. Once a palpable pulsation is identified, the finger pads should be then used for analysis. If the apical impulse cannot be palpated, the patient should be positioned in the left lateral decubitus position and asked to place his or her left hand underneath the pillow. Slight elevation of the head of the pad. Slight elevation of the head of the pad 30 degrees might also be helpful. Both maneuvers facilitate expansion of the thorax, increasing the space between the ribs. Held expiration may also facilitate cardiac palpation. Held expiration may also facilitate cardiac palpation. The apical impulse should be palpable in the majority of patients, even the ones with normal hearts. This figure shows palpation of the apical impulse. Once the apical impulse has been located, the finger pads of the right hand are used for assessment of apical site, location and contour. Once the apical impulse is identified, the examiner should assess its location, site, and quality and contour. The apical impulse is usually located at the fifth intercostal space in the midclavicular line with left ventricular enlargement. With left ventricular enlargement, the apical impulse is deviated laterally and inferiorly, while right ventricular enlargement displaces the apex laterally. Moving the patients from supine to the left lateral decubitus position only shifts the apical impulse laterally by 2 to 3 cm and should not be responsible for marked apical displacement. When the left ventricular side is normal, the apical impulse occupies an area of 3 cm or less in diameter. So when the left ventricular side is normal, the apical impulse occupies an area of 3 cm or less in diameter. The size of the apical impulse should be described in centimeters rather than finger breadths because it is more precise. Increase in the area occupied by the apical impulse suggests left ventricular dilatation, described as a diffuse apical impulse as opposed to localized. Isolated left ventricular hypertrophy typically does not cause enlargement of the apical impulse. Hypertrophy is associated with a sustained impulse. An enlarged apical impulse suggests an enlarged left ventricle due to myopathic process or volume overload, as seen in severe aortic or mitral regurgitation. The contour of the apical impulse should also be determined. Isovolumic contraction moves the apex closer to the chest wall, allowing its palpation. As a consequence, the impulse is usually only palpable during the first 2/3 of ventricular systole. The impulse is usually only palpable during the first 2/3 of ventricular systole. Although simultaneous auscultation can help quantifying the duration of apical impulse, in practical terms, the determination of a normal versus prolonged, described as sustained apical impulse, comes with experience. It is extremely important, therefore, for the clinician to perform cardiac palpation in every patient, including the ones with non-normal hearts, so a sense of normality can be developed. A sustained apical impulse can be found when ventricular mass is increased, ventricular hypertrophy or dilation, or when there is obstruction to left ventricular ejection as observed in aortic stenosis or hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. Not only duration but also the amplitude should be noted. In hypertrophy and obstruction to flow, the apical impulse is rather forceful, pushing the examiner's hands. Forceful apical impulse. Conversely, in patients with severe left ventricular dysfunction, the impulse can be quite feeble. In sinus tachycardia, example after exercise or related to infection, the apical impulse can be hyperdynamic. In patients with mitral stenosis and a pliable mitral valve, apical palpation results in a unique tactile shock-like sensation, that is shock-like sensation due to a prominent first heart sound, so-called tapping apical impulse, which is essentially pathognomonic for rheumatic mitral stenosis. Patients with hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy might also have a classic apical impulse, the so-called triple ripple. This corresponds to the presence of palpable systolic impulse in early and mid-systole, separated by withdrawal of the apical impulse related to dynamic outflow obstruction. A palpable atrial contraction corresponds to the third impulse. A palpable third or fourth heart sound may be suspected by inspection, sometimes placing the tip Sometimes placing the tip a pen over the apical impulse and watching the motion of the pen itself can be helpful. A palpable fourth heart sound follows atrial contraction and will be felt as a pre-systolic palpable impulse preceding the rise of the apical impulse. A fourth heart sound tends to be more easily palpated than auscultated. The fourth heart sound tends to be more easily palpated than auscultated. The fourth heart sound tends to be more easily palpated than auscultated. A palpable third heart sound corresponds to the ventricular diastolic rapid filling phase and will occur in early diastole. It can be felt as the apical impulse retracts. The third heart sound is usually more easily auscultated than palpated. Although systolic clicks and some diastolic sounds can be palpable, they are rarely felt. Given its anterior position within the chest, an enlarged right ventricle can be palpated as a parasternal lift or hip. It should be noted that in thin patients or patients with abnormalities of the sternum, such as pectus excavatum, a parasternal lift can be present in the setting of a normal right ventricular site. Palpation of the right ventricle can be accomplished several different ways, being performed with patient in the supine position. The examiner should gently place his or her thinner or hypothenor surfaces on the patient's left lower sternal border. The right ventricle can also be palpated by placing the examiner's index, middle, and fourth fingers over the third, fourth, and fifth intercostal spaces, respectively, at the left parasternal line. A third form of palpation is to place the right hand in the gyphoid subgyphoid area. A third form of palpation is to place the right hand in the subgyphoid area. Apical impulse control in a normal person in various disease states. This normal person, sustained, palpable S4, triple ripple, palpable S3. Here the figure shows palpation of the right ventricle. Palpation of the right ventricle can be performed using the following approaches. The thinner or hypothenor surfaces of the examiner's right hand are placed on the patient's left lower sternal border. A. The examiner's right hand. The examiner's right second, third, and fourth fingers are placed over the patient's right third, fourth, and fifth intercostal space, the B figure shows. And the C figure showing the examiner palpates the patient's right ventricle from the subgyphoid area. Here the examiner palpates the patient's right ventricle from the subgyphoid area. S1 is first heart sound, S2 second heart sound, S3 third heart sound, S4 fourth heart sound. This maneuver is particularly helpful in patients with obstructive lung disease. Abnormalities in the contour of the right ventricular impulse can be appreciated but are much less prominent than apical ones. Pulmonary stenosis can give rise to a sustained parasternal lift. Presystolic and early diastolic waves can also be appreciated on occasion.